You're listening to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. This is episode 12, and today's topic is judging others. Hey everyone, Adam Muselli here. Welcome to the Dynamic Thinking Project podcast. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. This podcast is released every Friday, and show notes are found at the website, themindtechinstitute.com. It's all one word. Come back often and feel free to add this podcast to your favorite RSS feed and iTunes. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. All links are in the show notes and website. And now, let's get into the show. Judgment can really be an ugly thing if it's not coming from a positive place or to help. I will explain that by sharing a story that it happened personally with me. A couple of months ago, I was at the gym for my routine workout and then I heard something disturbing. And by the way, it wasn't the gym that I usually go to because my gym has many different branches in every city, in almost every city. And you can access any of them as long as you have the swipe key. And also, that wasn't the first time I hear such disturbing thing. But this one has stuck in my mind for a reason which I will share later in this episode. So, I got to the gym, I jumped on the treadmill for a warm-up, and I usually have my earphones on, but at that very day, one of my earphones were broken. So I could only listen to music or whatever, but only with my left ear. I know, don't you love when that happens? Anyway, two women who were right next to me on the treadmill. They thought I couldn't hear anything they're saying since I have my broken earphones on. And I'm not gonna pretend that I'm such a saint and sometimes I don't hear a conversation next to me. If I can hear it, then it's in my personal space. Yes, of course, I'm not gonna eavesdrop on conversations, but it was loud enough for me to hear it. Moving on, the two ladies started giggling to themselves and commenting about a lady in front of us who was doing her workout on another cardio machine. There were two ladies, so let's say Lady 1 she said something like that. She said, I wonder if that machine is gonna be okay after that killer whale stops killing it. And the lady number 2 who was with her, she looked at the overweight lady on the cardio machine in front of us who was wearing black and white outfit. So you get it why the first one said killer whale? Because it's like black and white outfit. The second woman replied, yep, I hope she doesn't break it. God, she's just a pig. Then they both looked at each other and once again they giggled and laughed. Yes, these were grown women in their 30s who got to laugh by making fun of a woman who was working hard to positively deal with the same issue that they were currently laughing at her for, if that makes sense. Yes, judgment really is such an ugly thing. Unfortunately, for those two women, what they didn't realize is that their comments about that woman told me and the world so much more about them than it did about that woman. Now, here's the truth about judgment, and no one said it better than Earl Nightingale. He said, when you judge others, you don't define them, you define yourself. For some reason, people love to judge other people. Now, let me also clarify something here. There is a bad, nasty judgment, and there is a good and healthy judgment, which I will explain later. Now, I know some Santos here or Santos wannabe. Now they will tell me there is no such a thing as a good judgment. Yeah. Well, just hear me out and then think about whatever you want. You see, we're all nowhere near perfect. And we're all guilty of things from time to time, but as decent behavior of a decent person, whenever we slip out and start becoming judgmental of others, we take a step back and remind ourselves of this truth. We usually judge others in the areas where we feel the weakest as normal human beings. Now, my profession in psychology and in hypnotherapy and in counseling, we learned not to judge because we've heard lots of stories. Then we became immune to these things. To us, everything becomes as a study case. Everything becomes as a new experience. But for the normal person out there, I understand where they're coming from. I understand why they judge. As normal people, as people who are not in psychology or not in psychiatry or counseling or social work, just people, when they judge, usually they judge others in the areas where they themselves feel the weakest. Seriously, think about it. If you're being honest with yourself, I'm sure that you can relate to some of the common examples which I'm gonna give you now. Let's say, for example, you go to the gym, if you're a gym guy or girl, whatever. You go to the gym and then you look at a guy who is full of muscles and you say, he's definitely on steroids. You know what? This is, we hear it all the time. Especially, I'm a person who's been working out probably for the last, I don't know how many decades. Now, I understand there is lots of steroids in gyms, but to jump to a conclusion straight away, and right away you just judge someone, you say he's on steroids, well, that translates something. That's you inside saying, I wish I have his body, or at least similar. That's if you want to be honest with yourself. Another one, when you say, why can't that mother control her kids? They are running around through the store like animals. I know sometimes you get frustrated maybe, but when you're judging someone like that, why she cannot control her kids, for example, and I understand sometimes it is out of control. Well, this is what it is internally, or this is what your internal processes are saying. I don't feel great about my abilities as a mother, and it makes me feel a little bit better to judge a woman who appears to be struggling in her duties more than I am. Now, I'm not saying that in every case. I understand sometimes it gets really out of control and annoying, but if it's something just petty or simple, and you know or you are that type of judging people, this is the internal processes. This is what it's happening in your mind. Also, you saw someone who's driving a fancy car or something, you say, this person thinks that he or she is all that because he or she drives a fancy car and has so much money. It's disgusting. Or God knows what they do. But seriously, deep in your mind, or the person who says that, deep in their mind, they're saying, I wish that I had as much money as he or she did. And by judging her as a villain, it makes you a little bit better about being broke. It's like the opposite mirror. Look at that dude smiling all the time. He's so fake and annoying. Well, actually, you're saying to yourself, I wish that I was happy enough to smile all the time. But since I'm not, I'm gonna judge this guy as a phony and a fraud. And of course, related to what I heard at the gym, it wasn't the first time I hear it, but something goes like this. Look at that fat woman on the treadmill. She's such a mess. Translating that to yourself, your internal or your mental internal processes, you're saying to yourself, your internal dialogue saying to yourself, I don't feel good about how I look, and it makes me feel good to viciously judge someone who I believe looks worse than I do. Now, maybe those examples that I gave you might be harsh for you to hear, or maybe you say, nah, that's too extreme. But I assure you that it happens in this world. Of course, I hope you're not like that, and I hope you never had such experience or you never heard or know of someone who judges people harshly like that. But if you are curious why people do this, psychologically speaking, that's because our judgments reveals our soft spots and our insecurities and our weaknesses. And usually we harshly judge others because we do the same to ourselves. Now, here's how you can change that. First, remain in curiosity. You see, I'm not naive about this judgment stuff. I don't think that it's possible to live in a life where we never judge anyone ever. That's an amazing goal for sure, but my goal is to offer solutions that are realistic enough for people to be willing to give them a try. And here's a simple one to remember next time you're feeling the urge to be a little bit judgy of others. Or maybe if you know someone who does this, you can also share this with them. First, remain in curiosity and stay out of judgment. Judgment shuts us down and keeps us away from understanding the full situation. If you're being honest, more judgments about others are based on incomplete information, and most of the times, we are wrong. Curiosity, on the other hand, it keeps us open to possibility that there is something about the situation that we don't fully understand or know. Whenever I see people acting in ways that I think are insane, stupid, or worse, this is the question that I ask myself. I wonder what's going on with that person that I don't know about. I'll admit this may sound simple, but it's much easier said than done. You see, judging people is easy, and in some cases, it can even feel good to do it. On the other hand, being curious requires maturity, requires emotional intelligence, and a healthy dose of self-control or self-management to do it, and to do it constantly. And going back to the story of those two mean women who were attacking that lady viciously. And to be honest, even though, despite all my experiences and the things that I had through my work and dealing with clients and dealing with people in counseling, in psychology and education, I immediately started to judge the two women at the gym who were pulling the mean girls routine. I was eventually able to step back and look at their behavior with curiosity by asking myself, I wonder what would cause two grown women to act in such a mean-spirited, emotionally bankrupt way towards a woman who is minding her own business at the gym. Lots of different answers came to my mind, and the act of switching from judgment to curiosity made it possible for me to switch to a more positive frame of mind. And once I was finally in the positive frame of mind, I shifted my attention to the person who deserved my attention way more than those two women did. Specifically, the woman who was on the wrong end of the rude comments. So I decided to do something about it. And here's where we make things right. I've been on the wrong side of harsh judgment before, and I know how much it can hurt. Whether it's the fact that I often smile, or because people think that I'm delusional for trying to make a kinder, a free, or more conscious world through education and critical thinking, or even because of whatever reason I'm not aware of. I'm used to being judged. Well, I expect it, and I'm usually okay with it. While all that's true, it really still bothers me to see other people being other people's mean-spirited teasing and jokes. And even though the lady on the cardio machine didn't hear a word that the two women said about her, but I still felt the need to do something about it. So, did I angrily confronted the two women who made the killer whale comments? No. As a matter of fact, there is no point in wasting my energy on people who aren't open to hear the message. Instead, as I was walking toward the gym floor where the weight machines are, I made eye contact with that woman on the cardio machine and I respectfully smiled at her. You know what? She genuinely smiled back. And then she put her head down and refocused on her workout like a boss. Sure, I didn't do much, but In that brief moment that we shared, I wanted her to know that in a world where she may be harshly judged by others, I will not be one of those people who does it. Will that brief moment that we shared make a positive difference in her life? I have no idea. Only she can be the judge of that. But I know. I know this as I spent over a decade in the field of psychology, social, and behavioral science that whatever you think and say, your mind is and will be the product of your thoughts and words, and that will eventually end up as a behavior you do or get. This is a long topic and needs a whole episode, which I will do. But I will give you a brief here. And then please check out our online hypnosis and NLP training because everything I'm about to tell you here is there. You see, the subconscious mind, which we all have, doesn't think. Its job, it's not to think or rationalize. That's the conscious mind's job. Our subconscious mind takes everything you do and say personally and sooner or later will act upon it. For example, if you think or you say to yourself, I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, or whatever, then your subconscious mind will take what you thought or said as you thought it or said it, and then it makes it your reality. You might say, but what about the conscious mind? Wouldn't it know and rationalize what I'm saying and then stops it from happening? Well, the answer is, and as always, no. Because the subconscious mind always wins. Think of the subconscious mind as the genie in a bottle, or the genie that you ask a wish and it tells you your wish under my command. The genie doesn't care what you wish. The genie only manifests your commands. You say, give me a ton of gold, he will. You say, make me ugly, he will. Its job is not to think, but to only do, and that's how the subconscious mind works. Once again, all that can be found on our online hypnosis and NLP certification training at the mindtechinstitute.com. Check them out. So now you ask, what about the good and healthy judgment? Well, think of it this way. Whether you believe that God created you or you evolved from an ape, or it doesn't matter. But what matters is that we have an instinct that keeps us safe from predators, whether socially or in the wild. This judgment instinct would keep you alive if you learn how to use it. And I really don't like to sound like a broken record here, but in our online NLP training, we teach you all that. But here's what you need to know for now. If you're a lady and a guy on the street smiled at you, you'll be able to know what kind of smile that was. Your mind will detect all the micro muscles on his face and his body, and then analyze them and process them to make a judgment, whether it's safe to smile back or not. And all that happens in milliseconds. Of course, that requires further training for advanced judgment, but we all have it by nature, and no need for training to survive. Your mind is more powerful and intelligent than you can imagine. We've just been dumbed down by the system, which is another topic. Another example is you're driving back home at night on a deserted road and you see a car on the side, a broken down car, and a person waved at you for help. Would you stop? Well, that's up to your mind and how it would analyze the data and information to make a judgment call to stop and help or to keep driving. Even in the corporate world, you're hiring a person for a vacant position. How would you judge the person if he or she is the person for the job, for example? Of course, it's a HR work, and that's what we also teach too in the NLP and other courses. But that's a type of judgment called judgment of character. What do you do in such cases? You judge and you might be right or wrong? Or would you judge fairly with a positive manner and maybe learn this art? As you see, the two types of judgment, the good, the bad, and the ugly. At the end of the day, what goes around comes around. If not in a karma way, it would be through your subconscious mind. So be conscious of your thoughts, words, and actions, and always judge with conscience. This is Adam Muselli. Thanks for listening. The Dynamic Thinking Project podcast is released every Friday. If you have any questions, you can email me. The email is on our website, themindtechinstitute.com. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out a thing. Until next time, take care and enjoy your weekend.